Hello, thank you for joining us. My name is Ari Lawson. I work with VitalLink. We are based in Tustin, but recently, and which is awesome, we just partnered with Mount San Jacinto College. So we are definitely happy to have this first virtual event with them, highlighting the Administration of Justice pathway. I'm going to give the students just a couple more minutes for those who are logging in and setting up their view. Again, thank you for joining the college panel today. We have a couple of representatives joining us who are going to share more information about what the college has to offer, specifically for administration of justice. Some new updates to expect in regards to courses and possible internships. And then we will end with any final advice. And please note, any students or educators joining, if you all do have any questions that you would like for me to ask the panelists, feel free to add them to the chat. I will only be able to see the chat. That way that does help with question purposes. So let's go ahead and get started. I will start with Mr. Rick. If you can please let us know your name, title, courses you teach, and if you're at a specific Mount San Jacinto location.
Okay, thank you, Ari, for the introduction. My name is Rick Martinez. I am a professor. I teach at Mount San Jacinto College, and mostly I work out of the San Jacinto campus, but because the Temecula campus is now online, I'm on loan to that campus by request because it's much closer to my residence. I'm a local here, and I really enjoy my commute. It takes me 5 minutes to get to work, so I enjoy that. I'm a retired lieutenant, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that down the road. I teach just about all the classes within the program, but by choice, I like to focus more on the criminal law, report writing, and the community policing. Okay, so those are my three go-to classes that I seem to do every single semester.
Thank you, Rick. Tony?
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Tony Ferrar. I am a full-time faculty member, professor, and department co-chair of our Administration of Justice program. I've been with the college for just about 6 years now. I'm a retired police chief, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. I teach primarily out of the Menifee campus, and I love it there. They're doing some upgrades and things are coming along nicely. And I can't wait till we all get back face to face fully. I'm sure everybody probably thinks that as well. I teach I teach all of the courses. However, I do have my favorites. So my favorite would be criminology, because that's one of my degrees is in criminology, and I'll talk about kind of the uniqueness of where I obtained that degree on our next question. But I also like the criminal law courses, the intro to terrorism, and I usually leave some courses to the experts. So while I can teach corrections courses, I leave those to Rick because he is the expert in the corrections area and I am not.
Yes, thanks both of you. We're so excited. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into the questions, starting with Rick. Can you give a brief background about your own educational path and how that might have benefited you where you are? So what college or university did you attend and what did you study?
Well, I started off doing well in high school, but had to take a big break, and that was because of a family need. Mm-hmm. So I didn't return back to college until after I retired from the Department of Corrections. Once I was injured on the job and I had to pick another profession, I went back, completed my degree at the University of Phoenix, and then obtained my master's degree. Started my own business as a private investigator and I'm still active. I'm still licensed as an investigator. Rubbed elbows with so many people, and some of those people worked in the education field. So they started pulling me towards going to teach at a college. My first school was San Joaquin Valley College in Fresno. And from there, I just went up the ladder. I was the director within a few years, and I really enjoyed what I was doing. They had a corrections academy, and I taught at a corrections academy in Sacramento for the Department of Corrections. So it was just a natural fit for me. My family, we wanted to move down south. So I separated, came to San Jacinto, about 4 years. I'm tenured now. I am a full-time professor here. And we're trying to build a full corrections program, which will include an academy with a PC 832 component. And I'll field questions about the specificity of the two differences. But anyway, that was mine. It's a little different type of a background. It wasn't high school to college to my chosen career. My path was unique, but it made me I believe I have the full breadth of knowledge needed to teach in the classroom in this type of setting, so I can help the students now get to their career goals.
Perfect. Thank you, Rick.
You're welcome.
And Tony, what about your university, your college path, and what did you study right after high school?
Okay, so I might as well just come clean. I was a horrible student in high school. and I'll just admit that I was more of wanting to go to the beach and do things like that. So, but I somehow I made it through, but I was not the best student in high school. And when I graduated high school, I was actually working at a Alpha Beta grocery store, if anybody is old enough to remember Alpha Beta. And that really is where I became interested in law enforcement, because I was the victim of a robbery while I was closing that store one night. And I had to do the whole identification and go to court and do the testimony and all of those things. And it really sounded interesting, not just the excitement part, but how the law works. And so that was kind of my niche. So I got into law enforcement early at 20 and a half. And one thing I forgot was I needed a better education. So I was stuck in that dilemma between I'm making money as a law enforcement officer versus going back to school. And so I was kind of given some good advice at some point, and I was steered in the right direction. So I actually became an educational junkie, if you will. So I have a master's degree in police science. I have a master's degree in business administration, so an MBA from the U of R in Redlands here. And then I have a third master's degree in criminology. And this is the unique one. This is from the University of Cambridge Institute of Criminology in Cambridge, England. And that program was very unique. I basically went over there for 2 weeks at a time, 6 times a year for 2.5 years. In order to, it was quite a bit of work, but it was well worth it because that is my favorite subject to teach. And I really did learn a lot. So education really is a must. And I'm sure we'll have a chance to talk more about that, but there are so many benefits to kind of working your way through your educational pathway, not just for your socialization or your writing skills, but also for your future career goals. Because really education really it comes into play in everything that you do.
Yes. Well, I definitely want to thank both of you for your honesty, because I know sometimes they say, the step-by-step is right after high school, you enroll into college. So it kind of shows students that are joining, there's not always the traditional route. Sometimes, things come up where you have to adapt and you realign yourself to definitely follow along on what your path is. So definitely thank you so much for sharing. We're going to jump right on to the next question, starting with Tony. So what is your background, or have you ever worked specifically in the administration of justice? I know you kind of touched on that. Can you share a little bit more information, possibly about what you saw, cautiously, of course?
Well, yeah, so I have over 34 years of policing experience. I retired in December of 2015 as the chief of police for the Rialto Police Department in San Bernardino County, if you know where that is. I started my career many, many years ago, as you can tell by the 34 years, in a place called Compton, California. So I worked there, got a lot of good street experience, met a lot of really great people, and then I moved and ended up at the Rialto Police Department. And one kind of unique thing, having a very long tenured career, is I've worked every assignment in a police department except one, and that's a canine officer. I don't know why. I just never really. They're cool and they're they're great, but they shed and all that other kind of stuff. But, yeah,
They're so cute.
yeah. But and then one other final word to throw in there. I was lucky enough when I was in Cambridge to do my thesis on body-worn cameras. So I'm the guy, along with the Rialto Police Department, that is responsible for the first actual randomized control trial experiment in the USA and abroad, so in the world, to test body cameras. So you can blame me for all of that.
We don't blame you.
It's a great thing, but that really is my experience in policing.
Wow, that is amazing. That is very amazing. Rick, we have to hear your story.
Oh, my journey's completely different.
Yes.
Like I said, coming out of high school, I never thought about law enforcement. And it wasn't until my first child was born, and she was a preemie, and I didn't have any insurance. So my push to join law enforcement was out of necessity. I needed insurance. And the only people hiring back in 1982 was the local prison. And a lot of my friends from Tracy just gravitated towards the prison industry on both sides of the fence, let's say. Okay, some were inside, some wore a badge, unfortunately. So I waited about 3-4 years coming out of high school. At the age of 22, I needed a job with benefits. And so I started my career at Dual Vocational Institution. That's in Tracy. Nickname is called Gladiator School, the most violent prison in the state at that time. During my first year, I wasn't even off probation. I had been in, I don't know how many, they call them batteries. When you're assaulted, you have to defend yourself. Literally, it was a violent place. It might come across as being a little strange. I enjoyed the environment. I really just gravitated towards it. I loved it. I recruited my younger brother to come in and work there. I recruited my uncle to come work there. And 6 years later, I promoted to sergeant. I wasn't even off probation from sergeant. I was already acting lieutenant. And within 3 years, promoted to lieutenant. Transferred from prison to prison, because that's the way it works. If you want to promote, you got to go to these other prisons. I worked up in the mountains fighting fires side by side with inmates. I was a firefighter at that time as well. I wore 2 different hats. Ended up working in San Quentin for a while. That's a more famous prison. People have heard of it. I worked death row. I was the death row sergeant for 2 executions, and then went over to activate a new prison because I hadn't done that yet. So I went over to Kalinga in 1994 to activate that prison as a brand new prison. Coming from the oldest prison in the state to the newest prison in the state, that was an awakening. Retired out of there because of an injury I sustained in San Quentin at the hands of an inmate. And that's when the educational career came in. So that kind of ended the law enforcement as far as serving actively. And I went over to the private sector, both as an investigator and then in the classroom as an instructor.
Wow, very good.
That was my journey.
That is awesome. Thank you. And I did want to add, we actually got a couple of questions into the chat. So I'll be sure to read those off. A question from, I want to say a student. She asked, and she might have missed it, but that's okay. What college did Mr. Ferrar say he attended, if any?
So Chapman University, U of R in Redlands, and then University of Cambridge in England.
Yes, so 3 on his belt. And then a question for Mr. Rick. Based on entering the career field of corrections and criminology, does that require a degree?
Not at the state level, no. State level high school diploma or a GED will get you in the door. But if you want to work for the federal department, they actually require a 4-year degree.
Yeah. That is good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we're going to jump back into questions with number 4, starting with Rick.
Okay.
What changes do you see in the future in this career field that students should prepare for now if they can?
Well, that's a good question. Let me consult my magic ball over here. The movement that I've seen, and I've sat down with industry panels, and what I've heard from these experts is that we're getting away from the sworn officer because of the cost effectiveness and going into non-sworn, especially when it comes into the forensic works, criminal evidence collection, processing, things of that nature. And specifically when you're starting to get into the computers, as far as criminal fraud, white collar crimes, things like that, there is a lot of opportunity for non-sworn staff. A couple of chiefs that we talked to actually said that they considered putting a non-sworn with a sworn when they go out on patrol. How that's going to work, I don't know. That's more Tony's field. But they were really anxious to get students from all backgrounds and all physical abilities, because not everybody is going to get through an academy.
Right.
But we lose too many people that way. So they're trying to recruit non-sworn and get them into the field, into the industry via that method. And I do see a big swing because cost is a huge motivator. So that's what I predict.
Right. And so, Rick, you mentioned sworn and non-sworn. For any of the students that may not be familiar with those terms, can you elaborate on the difference of those?
Yeah, a sworn peace officer, he's gone through he or she's gone through a full academy, has done the PC 832 powers of arrest, whether it's at a community college or a sponsored an academy. It takes more time.
Mm-hmm.
With it, though, usually goes a higher entry salary versus a non-sworn, meaning they're not carrying a badge. Mm-hmm. They're not authorized to make arrests. But they do have a lot of other authorities that I won't get into it because that's long and boring, but that's the primary. One carries a badge, one doesn't.
Perfect. Thank you. And Tony, same question. What are you seeing, if any, changes that students could prepare for now?
Well, as far as changes go, I think technology is probably one of the big ones. I mean, you know, whether you watch RoboCop growing up or what have you, I think you're going to see a lot of different technology. I mean, it evolves in law enforcement and has for many years. And you see departments are quite a bit more proactive. I mean, you could even talk about body cameras. Who would ever think about that? You know, would actually, that'd be part of your everyday equipment that you wear when you go out on patrol or something like that. But as far as preparation goes, a lot of agencies are focusing on, you know, the standards, the critical thinking skills, you know, communication skills, and most importantly, I mean, ethics is there as well, but writing skills. Those are some of the big things. And, you know, we used to write reports by hand, but now we type them on a computer. So, yeah, I mean, so even that technology, even voice, you know, where you can speak and it'll type the, you know, the words for you, things like that. So there's all this new and different technology, but I wouldn't want to miss the opportunity to tell those that if this is something you want to do and you want to prepare, make sure that you're ready physically, because that's another aspect that sometimes youngsters don't think about is, are you really ready physically? And are you ready mentally for the rigors of corrections or police? Because it is very rigorous. It's not like watching TV. There's a lot of different things that take place. So I really think that in preparation, being physically fit, learning how to critically think, write, speak, I mean, because those are things that you're really going to do all the time in policing. And I think they're overlooked by some of the young people that want to get into this career field.
Yes. Thank you so much. And we actually just had another question submitted. So I'll go ahead and open the floor for either of you to answer. So they asked, for someone considering a career change into law enforcement, are there any middle level positions that allow education to be offered or available for the experience? Yes.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear. If they're talking about a middle level job, I mean, so there's sworn peace officers, there are and there's a bunch of different non-sworn positions.
Mm-hmm.
Some departments, if this is what they're talking about, some departments will actually pay for you to get your education or give you an educational incentive to go to school, and some really don't. It kind of varies from department to department. But I think, you know, as far as the question goes, there are so many different opportunities than just being a patrol officer in a police car driving around. And I think that that's where a lot of students miss out, that the career paths are endless. And there's so many different things that you can do under the umbrella of criminal justice. And I'm not sure if that really answers the question or not.
Yes, I hope that did. I'm sure that did. Rick, did you have anything to add on?
Not really. No,
Okay.
that's good. Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect. So next question, I'll refer to Tony. What specific courses do you teach, and what skills do you expect students to have when they enter the courses?
Well, I mean, I like to teach them all, but like I said, I do have my favorites. You know, I'm going to tout criminology again, and this is our first semester teaching ethics in criminal justice, so that's a new course. So I'm really enjoying teaching that, and I think it's a very needed course. But as far as coming into a criminal justice class, again, I think that, you know, the ability to think critically. On, you know, and because you're going to be applying laws and discretion and decision making, and all of these things are super important. The ability to communicate and speak in front of people, because you're going to do a lot of talking in this career. And if you don't know how to speak to someone or communicate effectively, then that's really going to be a hindrance. And then I'm sure Rick will agree, the number one, again, comes back to the ability to write. And, you know, I can say as a police chief, unfortunately, those that didn't make it through the probationary phase, typically it was for something that they did off duty, so some kind of misconduct, or it was a lack of the ability to write and document information properly. So it's super important that you start to at least develop those. And don't be afraid, you can learn those skills. You're not just born with them, you can learn them. So now's the time to start learning those.
Very good. And same question for Rick. You know, the specific courses you teach, and then what skills are you expecting?
Like, I enjoy teaching criminal law because I did go to law school, but I just didn't want to pursue a law degree. But I just enjoy analyzing cases and why the court ruled the way they did and how that's going to affect our communities. But it all boils down to the basics. And like Tony mentioned, you got to be able to communicate. You got to think critically, analyze, use good discretion. But even if you do all that, great, and you can't document it, nobody's going to want you. I'm sorry, but if you can't document, whether it's using a computer, voice recognition program, or doing it the old-fashioned, I still write manually. Your writing is a reflection of you. I'm teaching a writing class right now, and I have these conversations with my students on a daily basis. You have to know how to write. The better you write, the further and more opportunities. The further you'll go, the more opportunities will present themselves. So it's really the basic soft skills, communication, learning to write. We can't stress that enough. Tony, we've sat in with our community leaders and we asked them, what do you want from our students?
Right.
Without fail, we want people who can communicate and write. It's not us coming up with this. It's our future employers out here asking us to prepare our students in this manner. So yes, that's pretty much it for me too.
Very good, thank you. And Tony, I know that you had a PowerPoint you want to share with the students for the upcoming courses and possible more information to share. So whenever you're ready.
All right, so technology being what it is, let's see if it works. Because you never know, right? Okay, so let me get back to the front of this. Sorry for all the flicking through, but all right. So just really quick, I wanted to share some things that we've been doing. We're looking at, I mean, this is what we currently offer right now. We have an AS degree, we have a certificate, we have an AS degree for transfer. So those are current. We've recently implemented a AAT in law, public policy, and society, which is kind of a new thing. So if you're interested in advocacy and different things like that, this might be a great opportunity for you to get that particular degree. We're also working on, and it's about through curriculum, to get a certificate in crime scene investigation. So if you're not interested in the sworn officer side, you can actually get some certification to go into a non-sworn opportunity in crime scene investigation. Some employment concentrations we have one in corrections, we have a private security loss prevention employment concentration, we have computer forensics, and we're looking at the possibility of a guard card opportunities for those that might want to work private security, which might go along with our 832 or the Corrections Academy. And this is the Corrections Academy. We're looking at getting this off the ground. We're still in the process of ordering equipment, but this is going to be a course that you'll go from like a regular police academy, but geared more towards corrections. And it'll be held, we have some new classrooms on the Menifee campus where we have a simulator room, like I was talking about, a lab, a mat room, and we'll be able to conduct these courses. Some other things we're looking at might be a certificate or a degree in emergency management. That's kind of an up and coming type degree program, and maybe even a degree in crime scene investigation. Some new classes that have come about over the last couple of years would be Introduction to Terrorism and Homeland Security, forensics for law enforcement. So again, if you're interested in the crime scene part, and then our newest course is AJ 105. This is Ethics and Criminal Justice. And really, it's a fantastic class, not because I'm teaching it, because it's very necessary in the environment that we are in right now. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I look at it as the students that come to these courses, we're trying to build police officers, and we're trying to get them ready for the rigors of policing. And this is one of those courses that can really kind of set you on the right path. To show you how we've done some remodeling in some of the rooms, we've got computers in all the rooms, and you can see all the technology is actually pretty cool. This is our newest kind of smaller classroom where the Corrections Academy will be. Our forensic lab has pretty much the same equipment that the forensic lab has in Riverside County Sheriff's. And we actually have the head forensic tech from Riverside SO teaching our class. So we're going out and recruiting the best folks to teach these specific types of things. So we have, you know, light sources, microscopes, you know, everything that an actual forensic lab would have. We have a driving simulator to kind of teach the students how to drive, not just regular driving, but pursuit driving. We have a use of force simulator to talk about de-escalation and use of force issues. Here's our mat room. It's a little bit still kind of unpacking, but you can see we've got a lot of the equipment coming in. And we even have cool stuff like a 3D scanner that scans crime scenes and makes animated, basically, you can see on the right-hand side of the screen there, it'll make a drawing by measurement, by animation. You can do traffic collisions, homicide scenes, and this is the same equipment that law enforcement uses right now. So we're up to date with technology and teaching the students, really, this is what you're going to see when you get there. And yes, that's actually a composite sketch that my students did of me. They kind of messed up the hairline a little bit. I thought I had more, but evidently I didn't. But I actually thought they did a pretty decent job, I think, but they ripped me off on the hairline a little bit.
Definitely.
Yeah, and we have some different things for traffic and crime scene investigation. And then the big thing that we really want to tout and kind of continue with this upcoming year would be internships. Yeah. We've had internships with Hemet Police Department, Riverside Sheriff, both the Murrieta and Paris Station. We have a new internship through the FBI. And then we have some future agencies, both Banning and Menifee. So we're really looking to push internships, and this is a great opportunity for everybody to get involved and learn a little bit about what it's like to be in an organization. And then finally, we do have a criminal justice club when we're on campus. This was one of our DNA labs that we did, which was really, really kind of cool. So these are some of the things that we've done and some of the things in the future. And I appreciate you letting me take the time to kind of show you what we're all about.
That was awesome. So, the questions are coming in. We have to know. First question, I'll kind of open this for the floor. So a student is asking, if I want to work for Customs or Homeland Security, do I have to take the AJ117 before transferring?
No, you don't have to. And I think there's been a little bit of kind of a myth out there. And I don't want to like dissuade anybody from this, but a lot of departments want you to have a degree, whether it's an associate degree or 60 units or a bachelor's degree. But technically speaking, it doesn't matter what it's in. But it certainly helps if you're going, towards policing or something like that, that one of your at least your lower degrees is in AJ. A lot of chiefs look for that because they know that you've been taught certain things, and it kind of gives you that leg up over the next person that you're competing with for the same job, possibly.
Very good. And then another question is, how can I apply for the internships? They need to know they're ready. Who do they call?
So we're actually working on it right now. I'm working with Riverside Sheriff. We just got the new contract. There's some legal stuff that we have to kind of wade through. We've done that. So probably in the next week, I'll send some of the information over to the other instructors, over to Rick, and we'll farm it out to the other instructors. And you'll see some information coming out for you to fill out the little packet that they have and submit that. So I know that the whole COVID thing has put a little bit of a damper on internships. So we haven't had that many, but I think once we start to kind of roll out of this, we'll be back the way we were before.
Yes. And so another question is, are you seeing any internships specifically for California Highway Patrol in the future?
Have you ever talked to anyone from the Highway Patrol, huh?
I have not. That doesn't mean that they don't have them, but I have not seen a Highway Patrol internship. And consider this also, you can always check an agency's website to see if they're not just taking internships, but sometimes they take volunteers. And that's kind of the same thing. I mean, maybe you won't be getting credit for school hours, but I think we could actually work through that and get that for you. But they do have volunteer programs at almost any agency that I know of, except I don't know about corrections. Rick would have to answer that.
Not in corrections. No.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to jump back into our questions, and I'll start with Rick. Gotta give Tony a moment.
Give him a chance to rest, get a drink.
So Rick, can you explain a time when a student went above and beyond in your courses? Or if you know of a student in any of the department courses?
No, I've been really fortunate. I've had some really good students, and I'm remembering one student now. That's because we were talking about this a little while ago, and I'm trying to remember, okay, which story can I share? And there was this one student, he was at my corrections academy, and we were about halfway through. We had gone into some first aid, basic CPR, how to clear a crime scene, to make sure you don't tamper on evidence, those kinds of things. Well, he was working as a, what do they call Uber? The ones that give people rides, right? I think it's Uber. One of those people. Okay, I'm not promoting any of these, but he was out there doing his thing, and he had a paid person in the back, he says, when he was coming across and saw a hit and run where a vehicle had hit a pedestrian. He pulls over, he was able to get the license plate of the vehicle that took off, rendered first aid to the person that was hit. It wasn't no CPR, just basic first aid, cleared, kept the looky-loos at bay, waited for the police, actually called the police, had them come in and just took control of it.
Wow.
And he came into the classroom and shared that story. And he was the one telling us that he was just remembering the drills that we ran in the classroom. Make sure the scene is safe. Make sure you keep witnesses, identify, look around, be aware of your surroundings, those types of things. And he actually wrote a report, and it was pretty good. The police ended up finding the person in the other vehicle.
Good.
And then I lost track of what happened after that. But someone was found, held accountable, and charged with a hit and run. And it was because of this student.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And that's truly amazing. Wow, I'm shocked. Tony, any of your students that may have gone above and beyond?
Well, Rick, thank you for being nice to me. And so I have one student that I think is worth mentioning. I mean, a lot of them are. I've seen a lot of students that have a lot of things going on. One in particular was a young lady that had 4 kids, single mom, and she still came to class. She graduated, and I heard she applied for Riverside Sheriff's about a month ago. So when you look at success stories like that, it really should go to show you that you can do this if you really put your mind to it and you want to do it. But the other individual I'd like to kind of mention as far as this goes would be Rita. I cannot pronounce her last name, so I'm very sorry,
Okay.
Rita.
Don't even try.
I call her Rita D.
D. Yeah.
And because I can't finish it, and I really have to apologize, but she has a very unique skill set in that she can write like nobody's business, and she can research, and she studies very well.
Wow.
And because of that, one time I asked her, would you mind being a tutor for AJ students? And I think this is maybe her 3rd semester where she's volunteered her time or however that works to be a online tutor. And she was doing it face-to-face when we were face-to-face to share her skills with those that might need some help. And to me, I mean, she could kind of keep that to herself if she wanted to, but she's more than willing to, and she understands the importance of writing and research and, studying and habits and things like that. So she was willing to share that. So that's one of the students that I think has really gone above and beyond.
That is
if I can, about Rita, before she started doing the tutor, she was one of those quietest persons you'd ever met, would hardly ever talk. She was very timid. And I would talk to her about this, that you got to come out of that shell. You got to be able to talk to people like Professor Ferrar said earlier. You have to be able to do these things. And she goes, can you help me? I said, absolutely. And throughout the years, she is one of the most outgoing people, hardworking, dedicated, always willing to help another student. So yeah, can't say enough good things about her.
That is amazing. That is amazing. So that actually goes right into our final question. And I'll start with Mr. Tony. What advice do you have for students who are interested in this specific career field, but they may not be sure where to start?
Boy, and I don't want to take up all the time because I know we're close, because this could be a long one, but I'll kind of simplify it. I would say start by taking a few courses, AJ courses, really to see if it piques your interest. You don't want to hear it secondhand, or you want to actually sit in a class that you think is interesting, like criminology anyway, and see how you like it. And sometimes different courses will really pique a student's interest. And if you start to see that, then maybe another thought would be to look for an internship or a volunteer program, something that you can kind of, see what law enforcement's like. You can actually do a ride-along with an agency. You can go out there on patrol with an officer, or if you want to, communications operators, they do sit-alongs in dispatch where you can sit and listen to the calls that come in. And then finally might be to attend what they call a citizens academy. A lot of cities run these little academies. They're like 7, 8, 9 weeks, and you go once a week, and these representatives from the local department come talk to you about how they do things. And I think those are some good kind of first steps to start to get, figure out whether you're interested or not.
Very good. Thank you. And Rick, what final advice can you share with students?
Well, that was great advice. You got to understand this isn't a career for everyone.
Right.
Okay. And the one thing I always tell the students when they come in is you have to, for yourself, you have to accept this isn't a job. This is a livelihood. It's going to affect every aspect of your life. And are you willing to make that sacrifice? Is this what you wrote? So you got to really want it first. And then second, it's okay if it's not for you.
Yeah.
Okay, please, you're doing everybody a favor. If it's not for you, there's nothing wrong with that. Follow a different path. I'll help you get there, no matter what that path is. I worked with some officers who didn't make that identification that this job wasn't for them until we had a major incident and staff were getting hurt. It was a riot. And the officers, instead of going to help fallen officers, turned and ran away, went in the opposite direction. We said, boy, he waited too late to decide this job wasn't for him.
Yes.
So please make sure, whether you're on the street, your actions affect a lot of people. So you have to take this job serious, know that this is a commitment, and it is a livelihood. It's not a job, okay? It's not. It's a way of living. Please accept that, understand that.
Yes. Well, as we come to a close, I truly hope that this panel session did help all students and educators who are participating. And friendly reminder, students, be sure to log into the app. If you're having any technical issues, you can email me directly. But when you log into the app, go ahead and check out the Administration of Justice pathway. You'll see more about the description, the certificates, and actually some fun workshops. So when you click into the workshops, you'll see some handouts provided by the educators here, along with the virtual game that you can play. And you can submit your workshops and complete the eval. Let us know what you think about today's session and about the pathway as a whole. You can also visit the exhibitors page where you'll see more information about the Inland Empire police departments that are available. And some of them actually do have the volunteer application that was mentioned. So check that out, contact them for more information, and we'll see you next time.